Anyways, just remember, we're about to hear his story one, but we know that she was sleeping, or at least lying down, in bed when he smashed her with the frying pan. And we know that, and we know that he doesn't know that we know that, and that's genius. Anyways, let's listen to him.
Me being a bum and not cleaning up after myself, and then snagging the remote and not giving it back. Because it was really in my face, pointing her finger, and you can't do this. Oh my God. And I just sort of pushed it away and was done arguing. And don't you fucking walk away. And then I got clipped on the shoulder with the rolling pin. So if I got it, I'll use you. I got it here, but not particularly, not hard. I mean, it didn't break any bones or anything. But I did turn around like, what the?
Oh, so she wasn't in bed sleeping at the time, DC. Oh, we've got it all wrong, mate. Anyway, do carry on.
I can only remember looking down, having 3 holes in my jeans, with sort of a bit of blood coming down, and her standing there with a knife in her hand going, see, I'm not afraid of you. I even spoke about being afraid of someone. What are you on about? My flat-out reaction was to punch her in the face.
Okay.
And it was fair and square. And I'm not talking a hold back or something. It's talking a punch you in the face because you just stabbed me.
So this punch you talk about then, was that an instant reaction to being stabbed in the leg?
Instant.
I think it's pretty cool when you see a manipulator in action, because he's someone that's able to create stories that sound believable, because he sounds believable. And we know, like for a fact, that she had the eye mask on, she was lying down. So all of this is bullshit, but it's believable bullshit. And what's even better is the cop plays along. The cop knows he's bullshitting, but he plays along because that makes DC think that he's getting away with it. Like, oh yeah, the cops believe me. Oh, genius. And now an old dopey DC story one. Now he talks about the frying pan. Now he talks about the weapon that he used in the end that killed her on that manslaughter charge, which he's going to plead guilty to. So now let's listen to his confession. If he can swing it in a way where he can get off on manslaughter.
One of those big cast iron Le Creuset griddle pans. They're proper heavy. If you're smaller, I don't know, at work, if you're smaller apprentice as a girl, you can hardly pick them up on the handle. And then all of a sudden, that got into play and sort of flew past my shoulder again. And it just went on from there and holding down, and I basically got that from her in the end and took that and basically hit her with it.
And there you go, story one. That's the plea to manslaughter, because it can't be a murder if it happened at the heat of passion.
It was, I think, bang, 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 fall over, and oh my God, what just happened?
What state's she in after having hit her 3 times?
That was it.
What do you mean that's it?
That was it. Quiet. And there was nothing. There was no movement in any shape or form. It was just quiet with blood everywhere.
Oh, poor dope. He's completely forgot to tell the cops about the plastic bag and how he put it over her head after he smashed her with that frying pan and then suffocated our poor Melanie to death. Oh, DC, you're such a pathetic person.
I really didn't know what to do. I don't know where to go from there. And then next business day morning, just ordered a freezer, moved that around the back in the same tool shed, put it in there, freezer on. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. It took like a day to clean up everything.
You see, in here, old Dopey is using what it is that he knows that the cops already know when it comes to what happened with her now, about him going out to South Africa and giving a eulogy and attending the funeral and putting his ring off and liking stuff. He's going to use that because he believes that the cops know that that's the truth, so they'll believe the story he's telling them about story number 1 and how that fight occurred, how she ended up being killed, not murdered.
I then went ahead and called her family, made up a story about her having died of a brain hemorrhage in the living room, blah blah blah. And did everything that you would do if it would have been normal cause of death, and just, I don't know. I suppose it has to do with, if you tell yourself it's true, then, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not crazy. I'm not anything. I don't know why I did what I did.
Oh, but you see, DC, we know why you did it, you dipshit. It's gold. And you're sitting here thinking you're pulling it over the cops. And we know that the reason why you murdered your wife was so that you could go out on your birthday and achieve your goal of getting some chick and shagging her in your bed. You pathetic, dopey Muppet of a DC.
It's just one of these things. I burned wood in the barbecue. I made up the ashes to go in that urn. I flew down there, fucking spoke at the bloody funeral service there, with actual crying and everything.
That's gold, eh? Narcissism 101. He wants the cops to applaud him for having his plan go the way he wanted and pulling off that genius J4. That truly is narcissism by a narcissist, wanting them to recognize that. Unreal, eh? Now, here in this interrogation, this is when it turns pure gold, because now that he's set himself up in story number 1, he's locked himself in, and now the cops are going to start putting stuff to him, and he's going to realize real quick how much of a dopey Muppet he actually is. For now we're about to hear the origin question. If you've been a subby of mine for a little while, you know what the origin question is. If you're new, then I'll explain it quickly. The origin question is the question that when asked or put to an offender, that it changes the game completely. It is one that is not meant to rattle them, but to let them understand that their story number 1 has just gone down the drain. And old DC here, our dopey Muppet, he's about to be asked his origin question. It's gold. Now let's go see how well he handles being asked that question. Ladies and gentlemen, and subbi of all houses, the origin question.
Now, you told us quite clearly about how you had prepared Melanie's body, for want of a better expression, before putting it in the sleeping bag. And you told us that you'd undressed her, you'd stripped her down, you'd left her knickers on, and possibly a pair of socks, and then you put her in the sleeping bag. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, we found this eye mask, and they're right across her eyes, as they would be if she was using them to fall asleep. So how do you explain that?
Can I have a word with him quickly?
Yeah. Yes, if you can. It's 1300, and I'm going to stop this. Now, I would suggest to you, Peter, that if she's fighting with you, she can't really be doing much fighting if she's got an eye mask on her, over her eyes. So how did she end up in the sleeping bag with the eye mask? Why didn't you tell us about the eye mask?
Because I can't remember putting it on her or anything like that.
You can't remember? So at what point was the eye mask on her then?
I can't remember. I wasn't even aware that it was on her body.
Is the truth of the matter that when you killed her, she was asleep?
No. No.
You sure about that, Peter?
Hey?
You sure?
Yeah.
Now, Now, I would suggest to you, Peter, that if she's fighting with you, she can't really be doing much fighting if she's got an eye mask on her, over her eyes. So how did she end up in the sleeping bag with the eye mask?
So I just said.
No, you didn't. You haven't explained to me how we found Melanie in the sleeping bag, in the wheelie bin, 2.5 years after her death, when you say you didn't touch her apart from putting her in the freezer and then putting her in the wheelie bin 2.5 years later. You made no mention of the eye mask yesterday when we asked you about it on numerous occasions, and yet when we find her, she's got the eye mask on like she was asleep. And I'm sorry, but there's no way that she can have been fighting with you if she can't see what she's doing. So I'll ask you again, why didn't you tell us about the eye mask?
Because I can't remember putting it on her or anything like that.
The plastic bag that we're talking about, that was found over her head as well. So can you remember putting the plastic bag on her head?
I'm not going to say something just to fit in the picture. If I can't remember, I can't remember. This is what I just talked to him about.
So you have no recollection of putting a plastic bag over her head?
I can't remember, no.
Okay. I'll ask you the first question then. Did you put a bag over her head to stop the blood streaming out all over the floor and making further mess?
It would be easy for me to say yes, but I can't remember.
Okay. Did you put the bag over her head after knocking her out unconscious with a griddle pan in order to suffocate her?
No.
It's pure gold, eh? It's just pure gold that this dopey Muppet is so dopey and obviously lazy that he never took the bag off her head after he suffocated her. He just didn't. And that, Sabai, is why this DC is known by us at this channel, Dumb Criminal, as the Dopey Muppet DC. It's gold. And you can see that now that story number 1 is gutted, that he isn't smart enough to quickly come up with viable and believable answers, so he just mumbles along like a Muppet, a really dopey one. Pure gold. That narcissism doesn't seem to be shining a beacon of light anymore. Anyway, let's get back to it. So anyways, the next part of old Dopey's interrogation is excellent. Why? Well, why? Because this is where the murder squad is going to remove manslaughter as an outcome by introducing a motive. You see, old manslaughter doesn't really have a motive, but murder does. See, there's a bit of a difference between I wanted to kill them compared to I could have killed them, but I didn't, but they ended up dead anyway. That there is a purpose for killing the victim. Kind of like, Mike's life insurance. It's usually about that kind of stuff. Kill someone to get the money, then that's motive to kill. So, here, with Dopey, Dopey here, he's never told anyone about his motive for killing his wife. You see, he's dopey, not dumb. He knows that they need motive, and as long as he doesn't tell anyone, he's Scott, whoever the hell Scott is, that DC is scot-free. So that motive is in Dopey's mind, and even Dopey knows that those cops don't have telepathy, and lie detectors aren't something that's used like in the States. But, and there is thankfully a but in this one, the murder squad don't need telepathy. No, not at all. What they do need is dates and times. 2 dates relating to 2 times to be more specific. You see, those 2 times, the first one is the last time anyone other than DC who saw or spoke to Melanie, and they need the first time that DC brought a trick back to his place. And guess what they come up with? How does a narcissist, dopey Muppet of a DC murderer celebrate his birthday? He celebrates it with the motive, the dopey Muppet motive, murder.
Is there anyone that you have had any sort of meaningful relationships at all with, either prior to Mel's death or after her death?
Prior, definitely not.
The only reason I say that is because from the inquiries we've made, there's a lady that says she had a relationship with you.
Well, but that was a kind of a work fling, really.
And is this after or before Mel's died?
Probably shortly after.
So tell me about the first time that you had a sexual contact.
Couldn't really put I couldn't put a date on there, but I don't know, somewhere around, I don't know, September, October, November, somewhere there, I don't know.
And where was that then?
At the house.
So you slept together down at Hamilton Avenue. Okay, and again you're upstairs in the bedroom, right, on that mattress.
Same answer.
Peter, were you having an affair with?
No. Okay. End of story. Yeah?
Because the indications are that you were.
There's no need for this now.
No, because it's important. I'll tell you why it's important. It's important because you've told us. You sat here, and yes, you did. Yes, you killed your wife. You killed your wife in August 2006. But the circumstances and the reasons behind why you killed your wife might not be the full truth.
But that's as such not true.
And the reason for you killing your wife was because of some extramarital affair you might be having.
Okay.
Now, that's about all he said to the squad boys. See, after the interrogation, they had formally arrested him, and then he hunkered down for trial. Bitch is, we don't actually get to see those DCs in those courtrooms, because back then, there was no cameras allowed. But recently, that's all just a thing of the past. Because now they do. And there's be heaps of British DCs and heaps of Eastern European bloc people who are DCs on our episodes coming up. So make sure that you subscribe and be a subscriber of this channel, because you don't want to miss us kicking all of them DCs in the bollocks, as the British would say. Because we're going to go along with our British sub-eye, our British subscribers, and go kick all their bad guys in the dick. So subscribe. Now, wrapping it up, how did it all end up for Dopey here? Well, what happened was, you see, old Dopey here, part of his plan 2, which was still in action, was to plead guilty to manslaughter. Because, you know, this genius, he believed that he only deserved like a year in prison with his J for Genius Plan 2. But there's another one of those buts. But you see, the old British Crown prosecutors, the British judges, the House of Lords, the British cops and the British detectives that worked on this case, even the fucking Queen, God rest her soul, a bloody amazing wahine, an awesome British girl who just happened to be a princess and turned into a queen, said, nah, DC, you're going down for murder, old chap. Murder 1 year? No, you dopey fucking Muppet, you're going to get life. Ta-ta. And that's exactly what happened. So you see, old Genius Plan 1 and Genius Plan 2 got smashed to pieces by the Crown, and the old judge, well, the old judge picked up a big, heavy book, kind of like that fry pan that this dopey Muppet used on poor old Mel, and then he took that big, heavy book and he threw it at him. Yep. That's another one of those Kiwi sayings we have over here. The old judge threw the book at him. Now, let me know, because I'm interested, because you guys know that I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Let me know whether or not you have that in your side of the English dialect in your country or culture from wherever you come from. Let me know in the comments below. That will be interesting to know. So, printed on that big heavy book that the judge threw at him was life. Yeah, old Dopey here, he got life. But Britain's kind of like New Zealand. It's Crown law, or the British system. So they actually get a minimum that he has to be inside for before he gets to have parole. So it's going to be 20 years. Dopey fucking Muppet here comes up for parole. And until that time, this dopey Muppet German of a DC resides in one of Britain's finest, chock full of old big British boys who really hate people like him. And that is your introduction to the type of DC that we call this channel and in all of the houses of the sub-eye, the Dopey Muppet DC. And now that brings me to this part of this message and this episode, and this is to the original sub-eye, the OG sub-eye that have just joined us up on channel membership. I'd like to formally welcome you guys, you sub-eye, to our DC universe. You, my brothers and sisters, are most welcome in the house of the admin anytime. And if you are not an official member yet, if you're not one of the sub-eye of the houses, then check out our membership. Jump on the roller coaster. Let's see how fast this thing can go. I'll leave a link below. And now that that's done, God bless to you all, to whichever God you believe in, as it makes no difference to us. Stay safe. Stay safe, everyone. Especially my DC subbies. Especially.